Breaking. Princess Leonor's emotional confession to Prince Christian changes everything. Heartbreak crown. The palace looked perfect. The cameras, the smiles, the fairytale illusion. Spain and Denmark united by love. A future queen. A future king. The image of royal perfection. But behind those polished smiles, there was a truth no one saw coming. A confession that would shake the very core of Europe's most admired young royals. Princess Leonor, heir to the Spanish throne, finally told Prince Christian the one thing she had been hiding. And it changed everything. It began quietly, a private moment after the last engagement of the day. The cameras had turned away. The red carpets had been rolled up. The glitter of duty had faded. In the quiet halls of Zarzuela Palace, Leonor walked toward Christian, her eyes determined, her heart heavy. The same princess who had spoken with such strength to her nation during her oath to the Constitution, now looked vulnerable, trembling. He saw it immediately. "What's wrong, Leo?" he asked softly. She hesitated. The silence stretched. Finally, she whispered, "Christian, there's something I have to tell you. Something I should have said before all this became real." He froze. The tone in her voice, it wasn't about politics, it wasn't about protocol. It was personal, deeply personal, the kind of truth that doesn't just touch a crown, it touches the soul. Christian took her hands. "You can tell me anything." But even he didn't expect what would come next. Leonor's confession wasn't about betrayal or scandal. It was about fear. The fear of losing herself to the crown. "I love you," she began, her voice breaking, "but sometimes I wonder if I can love you and still be who Spain needs me to be." He blinked, unsure whether to speak. This was the same Leonor who, to the world, embodied calm, grace, and duty. But to him, she was just Leo, the girl who sneaked into Copenhagen cafes disguised in scarves, who laughed at bad Danish jokes, who wrote him letters when duty kept them apart. And now, the same girl who once promised forever was questioning whether love could survive destiny. Christian's first instinct was silence. He looked away, pacing. "So, you're saying this might not work?" His voice cracked, quiet but sharp. Leonor shook her head, tears spilling. "No, I'm saying, I don't know how to make it work and still be true to my country." The confession shattered something in the air. Not the love, but the illusion of certainty. For months, the world had watched them smile, watched their families blend traditions, watched their romance become the fairy tale Europe longed for. But that night, behind gilded walls, two hearts realized love alone might not be enough to hold together two nations' expectations. Still, Christian wasn't ready to let go. "Do you think I don't feel the same?" he said, stepping closer. "I've watched my mother, my father, carry the crown and lose parts of themselves too. But I thought, we'd face it together." Leonor wiped her tears. "Together, but at what cost, Christian? When I take that oath as queen, I stop being just Leonor. Every decision, every word, everything I do becomes Spain." Her voice trembled. "And what if Spain asks me to choose?" He stared, stunned. "Choose between me and your country." She nodded. And in that moment, the fairy tale cracked open, revealing the weight beneath the gold. The young royals had been raised for this life. Protocol, duty, service. Yet no one had prepared them for what happens when love crosses borders, crowns, and centuries of royal expectation. Their romance had been celebrated, analyzed, idolized, but rarely understood. Because behind every royal love story is a cost. That night, they didn't speak for a long time. Just silence. The kind of silence where emotions echo louder than words. Finally, Christian broke it. "Then let's make a promise," he said. "If one day duty tries to separate us, we'll remember this moment, the real us, not the heirs, not the titles." Leonor looked up, surprised. "You'd wait." He smiled sadly. "I'd fight. But I'd never make you choose." Those words stayed with her long after he left that night. When she stood before her father, King Felipe, later that week, her eyes were red. He noticed. "Leonor, what's wrong?" he asked gently. She hesitated again, just as she had with Christian. "I told him the truth, Papa. About my fears." Felipe sighed, understanding more than she expected. "Ah, hija, the truth is the hardest part of leadership. Love and duty rarely walk hand in hand." But what came next stunned even him. Then maybe I need to redefine duty, she said quietly. Maybe my generation has to find a way to be both. Those words echoed through the palace walls, a declaration not just of emotion, but of vision. Leonor wasn't just a princess in love. She was a future queen trying to rewrite what it means to rule with heart. Over the next weeks, the distance between her and Christian became visible. Fewer public outings, softer smiles, but those close to them knew they weren't falling apart. They were growing through something real, something every royal couple must face behind the crown's shine, the cost of choosing authenticity over appearance. And then came the moment that reignited everything. Copenhagen, months later. Leonor visiting Denmark under the guise of a diplomatic cultural exchange. The press thought it was routine. But the truth, it was far from official. At a small lakeside residence away from the public eye, Christian opened the door. He hadn't seen her in months. The air between them was thick, with longing, uncertainty, hope. No crown, no cameras, just them. She stepped inside, took a deep breath, and spoke before he could say a word. "I've made my decision," she whispered. His heart raced. "And I choose both," she said firmly. "My country, and you. Because what kind of queen would I be if I ruled with fear instead of love?" He stared at her, stunned, before slowly smiling. "You sound like your father." She smiled faintly. "No, I sound like myself." That confession, the one that had once broken them, had become the foundation for something stronger. Not naive love, but courageous love. The kind of love that doesn't hide behind ceremony or crowns. Still, it wouldn't be easy. The press began to speculate. Rumors swirled of private letters, of arguments between advisors, even whispers of intervention from the Spanish royal court. Some said the relationship was doomed. Others said it was destiny. But for Leonor and Christian, none of that mattered anymore. They had found truth, even if it came wrapped in pain. And behind palace doors, there were quiet conversations between monarchs too. Queen Letizia, ever protective, had once doubted Christian's worldliness. But now, watching her daughter's quiet strength, she began to see something different, a woman ready to lead not with rigidity, but with emotion. Meanwhile in Denmark, Queen Mary saw her son torn between heart and heritage. She'd lived that same crossroads once, coming from Australia to Denmark for love. And she told him something that would stay with him forever: if love is real, it will survive the crown. If it's not, the crown will show you. So when Christian returned to Spain months later for an official ceremony, the world watched for signs, glances, gestures, the unspoken connection between two people living under endless scrutiny. And they saw it, a subtle touch of hands, a knowing smile, a moment of shared understanding that spoke louder than any royal statement. It was clear, whatever storm they faced, they were still standing together. Still, that night, after the ceremony, Leonor sat alone by her window, looking at the Madrid skyline. The lights of her city flickered below. The future queen whispered to herself, "If I am to reign, let it be with truth. Always truth." She knew then that love doesn't weaken a crown. It strengthens it. And maybe that's what her emotional confession had been all along, not a breaking point, but a beginning. A beginning where love and leadership could coexist, not as opposites, but as equals. Months later, when she gave her first official address after her 20th birthday, the world noticed a change in her voice, more mature, more grounded, more human. She spoke not just of duty, but of compassion. Not just of sovereignty, but of understanding. And Christian, watching from Denmark, smiled. Because he knew, every word came from the girl who once trembled before him, unsure if love could survive destiny. It did. Because the confession that once seemed to end everything had, in truth, changed everything, for the better. It made them real. And in the quiet hearts of two young royals, a new kind of monarchy was born, one built not on perfection, but on truth. The kind of truth that lasts longer than crowns. Longer than kingdoms. The truth that love, when faced with fear, can still choose courage. That was Princess Leonor's confession. And it didn't destroy the fairy tale. It rewrote it.